The complete works of Swami Vivekananda. Raj Yoga, Chapter 3, Prana, Part 1. Pranayam is not, as many think, something about breath. Breath, indeed, has very little to do with it, if anything. Breathing is only one of the many exercises through which we get to the real pranayam. Pranayam means the control of prana. According to the philosophers of India, the whole universe is composed of two materials, one of which they call Aksh. It is the omnipresent, all-penetrating existence. Everything that has form, everything that is a result of combination, is evolved out of this Aksh. It is the Aksh that becomes the air, that becomes the liquids, that becomes the solids. It is the Aksh that becomes the sun, the earth, the moon, the stars, the comets. It is the Aksh that becomes the human body, the animal body, the plants, every form that we see, everything that can be sensed, everything that exists. It cannot be perceived. It is so subtle that it is beyond all ordinary perception. It can only be seen when it has become gross, has taken form. At the beginning of creation, there is only this Aksh. At the end of the cycle, the solids, the liquids, and the gases all melt into the Aksh again. And the next creation similarly proceeds out of this Aksh. By what power is this Aksh manufactured into this universe? By the power of prana. Just as Aksh is the infinite omnipresent material of this universe, so is this prana the infinite omnipresent manifesting power of this universe. At the beginning and at the end of a cycle, everything becomes Aksh, and all the forces that are in the universe resolve back into the prana. In the next cycle, out of this prana is evolved everything that we call energy, everything that we call force. It is the prana that is manifesting as motion. It is the prana that is manifesting as gravitation, as magnetism. It is the prana that is manifesting as the actions of the body, as the nerve currents, as the thought force. From thought down to the lowest force, everything is but the manifestation of prana, the sum total of all forces in the universe, mental or physical, when resolved back to their original state, is called prana. When there was neither ought nor not, when darkness was covering darkness, what existed then? That Aksha existed without motion. The physical motion of the prana was stopped, but it existed all the same. At the end of a cycle, the energy is now displayed in the universe, quieten down and become potential. At the beginning of the next cycle, they start up, strike upon the Aksha, and out of the Aksha evolve these various forms. As the Aksha changes, this prana changes also into all these manifestations of energy. The knowledge and control of this prana is really what is meant by pranayam. This opens to us the door to almost unlimited power. Suppose, for instance, a man understood the prana perfectly and could control it. What power on earth would not be his? He would be able to move the sun and the stars out of their places, to control everything in the universe, from the atoms to the biggest suns, because he would control the prana. This is the end and aim of pranayam. When the yogi becomes perfect, there will be nothing in nature not under his control. If he orders the gods or the souls of the departed to come, they will come at his bidding. all the forces of the nature will obey him as slaves. When the ignorant see these powers of the yogi, they call them the miracles. One peculiarity of the Hindu mind is that it always inquires for the last possible generalization, leaving the details to be worked out afterwards. The question is raised in the Vedas, what is that knowing which we shall know everything? Thus, all books and all philosophies that have been written have been only to prove that by knowing which everything is known. If a man wants to know this universe bit by bit, he must know every individual grain of sand, which means infinite time. He cannot know all of them. Then how can knowledge be? How is it possible for a man to be all-knowing through particulars? The yogis say that behind this particular manifestation, there is generalization. Behind all particular ideas stand a generalized abstract principle. Grasp it and you have grasped everything. Just as this whole universe has been generalized in the Vedas into that one absolute existence, and he who has grasped that existence has grasped the whole universe, so also all the forces have been generalized into this prana, and he who has grasped the prana has grasped all the forces of the universe, mental or physical. He who has controlled the prana has controlled his own mind and all the minds that exist. He who has controlled the prana has controlled his body and all the bodies that exist, because the prana is the generalized manifestation of force. How to control the prana is the one idea of pranayama. All the trainings and exercises in this regard are for that one end. Each man must begin where he stands, must learn how to control the things that are nearest to him. This body is very near to us, nearer than anything in the external universe, and this mind is the nearest of all. The prana which is working this mind and body is the nearest to us of all the prana in the universe. This little wave of the prana, which represents our own energies, mental and physical, is the nearest to us of all the waves of the infinite ocean of prana. If we can succeed in controlling this little wave, then alone we can hope to control the whole of prana. The yogi who has done this gains perfection. No longer is he under any power. He becomes almost almighty, almost all-knowing. We see sects in every country who have attempted this control of prana. In this country, there are mind healers, faith healers, spiritualists, Christian scientists, hypnotists, etc. And if we examine these different bodies, we will find that at the back of each, this control of the prana, whether they know it or not. If you boil all their theories down, the residuum will be that. It is the one and the same force that they are manipulating, only unknowingly. They have stumbled on the discovery of a force and are using it unconsciously, without knowing its nature. But it is the same as the yogi uses, and which comes from prana. The prana is the vital force in every being. Thought is the finest and highest action of prana. Thought, again, as we see, is not all. There is also what we call instinct or unconscious thought, the lowest plane of action. If a mosquito stings us, our hand will strike it automatically, instinctively. This is one expression of thought. all reflex action of the body belongs to this plane of thought. There is again the other plane of thought, the conscious. I reason, I judge, I think, I see the pros and cons of certain things, yet that is not all. We know that reason is limited. Reason can go only to a certain extent. Beyond that it cannot reach. The circle within which it runs is very, very limited indeed. Yet at the same time we find facts rush into this circle. Like the coming of comets, certain things come into this circle. It is certain that they come from outside the limit. Also, our reason cannot go beyond. The causes of the phenomenon intruding themselves in this small limit exist on a still higher plane, the superconscious. When the mind has attained to that state which is called samadhi, perfect concentration, superconsciousness, it goes beyond the limits of reason and comes face to face with facts which no instinct or reason can ever know. All manipulations of the subtle forces of the body, the different manifestations of the prana, if trained, give a push to the mind, help it go up higher and become